Yes. Okay. Sorry for the delay, folks. I'd like to welcome you to the October 21st special board meeting. We have 3 emergency exits here for this room. I'd just like to announce who's here with us. Officer Freeman, Tracy Councilman, Gretchen Walter here in the room with me. And on the electronic side of the house, we have Mike Bacallo, Judy Blakey, Jonathan Karp, Nancy White, Elko Johans, Steve Rotuno, Robert Jermaine, Chris Woznicka, Nicole Walsh. And we'll have the clerk call the roll, please.
Can't hear you.
Counselor Blakey.
Here.
Counselor Carr.
Here.
Counselor White.
Here.
Counselor
Present.
Here. Okay, please rise with me with Deputy Clerk Walter, Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the
to the
flag.
flag of
United
the
States of
States
America,
and to the republic
Republic
for which
for
it
which it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation, under
under
God,
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 indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty.
liberty, justice
and
for all.
justice for all.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, Nancy.
Approval of abstracts. Resolved, the Cicero Town Board approves abstract number 43 dated October 14th, 2020.
Second.
Second, Ms. Boyke, discussion. Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Blakey.
Yes.
Jonathan?
I didn't hear her, sorry.
We
All
can't
right,
hear.
Counselor Carr.
Yes.
Counselor White.
Yes.
Counselor Capello.
aye.
Yes. Item is adopted. Nancy?
Budget modifications. Resolved, the budget modifications are approved as presented.
I'm sorry, but I didn't get a copy. It wasn't an attachment. Did anybody else get one?
It was on the last page of the attachments.
Okay, we need a second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Carp, discussion. Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Blakey.
I have to abstain because I really didn't get to see it.
Counselor Carr.
Yes.
Counselor White.
Nancy?
Yes.
Counselor Capello.
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes. Item is adopted. Thank you. Next item is a continuation of the public hearing. This item was previously posted. And, okay, Nancy, you have number 4.
A public hearing continuation. Town of Cicero Local Law Number 10 for the year 2020, a local law to override the tax levy limit established in General Municipal Law, Section 3C. Be it enacted by the Town Board of the Town of Cicero as follows. Section 1, legislative intent. It is the intent of this local law to override the limit on the amount of real property taxes that may be levied by the Town of Cicero pursuant to General Municipal Law, Section 3C, and to allow the Town of Cicero to adopt the budget for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2021, and ending December 31st, 2021, that requires a real property tax levy in excess of the tax levy limit as defined by General Municipal Law, Section 3C. Section 2, authority. This local law is adopted pursuant to Subdivision 5 of the General Municipal Law, Section 3C, which expressly authorizes the town board to override the tax levy limit by the adoption of a local law approved by a vote of at least 60% of the town board. Section 3, tax levy limit override. The town board of the town of Cicero, located in the county of Onondaga, is hereby authorized to adopt a budget for the fiscal year 2021 that requires a real property tax levy in excess of the amount otherwise prescribed in General Municipal Law, Section 3C. Section 4, severability. If any clause, sentence, paragraph, subdivision, or part of this local law or the application thereof to any person, firm, or corporation or circumstance shall be adjusted by any court of competent jurisdiction to be invalid or unconstitutional, such order or judgment shall not affect, impair, or invalidate the remainder thereof, but shall be confined in its operation to the clause, sentence, paragraph, subdivision, or part of this local law or in its application to the person, individual, firm, or corporation or circumstance directly involved in the controversy in which such judgment or order shall be rendered. Section 5, effective date. This local law should take effect immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State.
Okay, I'm not sure the clerk had the time. It was approximately 6:40 when we started that, so if she could please make a note of that. Did you want to ask for comments, Nancy, or input, discussion?
Are there any comments for or against? Were any emails received?
I haven't received anything from anybody since last week.
Okay, I got a email indirectly. It was not sent to the board. It was sent to a department head. I'll read it for the record because it was passed along. It's from a Laura Dewey. As a concerned citizen of Cicero, I am against any tax increases at this time. With so many people out of work, I don't know how the town can increase our taxes. The citizens of Cicero need your help, not higher taxes. So that's an item. So we'll skip that for the public input, so we'll have it on this part. Any further input from the board on this item?
I would really like to keep this open for one more week until we are able to really get our arms around our budget, which we have not had an opportunity yet because we have still more items to look at. So I would ask that we push it forward 1 week to our next board meeting.
Any concurrence from the board?
I would concur. I'd like to keep working with everyone. I'd love it. And I know everyone saw emails from me today, and I would absolutely love it if we could have a workshop so all of us could get together and just try to get this budget to, we all can agree on getting this budget to a more friendly position for our citizens. So Judy, you have my support to do so. So
The only thing is this is a rather pivotal item in the budget process. If we're going to go with that 1.56, that's one situation. If we have to meet that goal, that's going to be very difficult. I think it's, in all fairness to the residents, that we know where that position is. So,
Well, I think 1 week, because of the time frame, obviously, we are not required by law to have our public hearing until 1 week after or 5 days after elections. So pushing it forward 1 more week, I think will give us a better idea and a more comfortable position as to where we stand as far as this tax levy goes.
I do not object to pushing it forward a week, but I also do not believe that we are going to be able to, frankly, that's going to disappoint some people, avoid exceeding the tax cap. I mean, right now we're what, 2.24% tax increase, which obviously exceeds the tax cap. And that's with appropriating $2.1 million from our reserve fund. That's 60% of our total reserve fund, 50% of Fund A, 60% of Fund B, and something like 96% of Fund DB. We're basically spending 60% of our reserves in order to buy the tax increase down to 2.24. I think we probably need to cut that in half. So that means we could literally cut $1 million from this budget and still be the 2.24% tax increase. Because if you use $1 to reduce our reliance on fund balance, that same dollar can also not be used to reduce taxes. I just don't see any way for us out of this without, I think we have two choices. Either raid the fund balance and meet the tax cap, or do not raid the fund balance, but exceed the tax cap. I think those are really the two choices. I'm happy to work with everybody to try to find a third way. I just don't think it's possible. So I'm I think we're going to have to exceed it. If we exceed it this week or next week, it doesn't make a difference to me. I think that we need to pass it regardless because we need to have it available in case it's not possible to meet the tax cap. So I'm neutral. I defer to whatever the rest of the board wants to do. I'm just putting it out there. I don't think we're going to be able to avoid this.
I agree with you, John. I'm sorry. Go
As I
ahead.
said last week, we can always rescind it if we don't need it. But if we don't pass it and we need it, then we're in trouble.
Right.
Exactly, but we still have a week. And I for one, am not comfortable. And as John just brought up, we have a substantial amount of our fund balance that we're using, which is going to put us in a really bad position. I think that getting a better handle on our budget is not probably going to reduce the tax rate, but at least we will be able to have a better handle and I believe a better budget where there are areas that have to be reduced. And I believe Ryan McMahon spoke about a 20% reduction today and putting people on furlough, working 4 days. That is a reflection on something that obviously we don't want to do, but we've got to find ways to save our balance in our fund balances. And obviously we will come close, but 1.56 is impossible. So I agree with that, but I think we still need time. We have a week.
The bad news is we don't get any sales tax. The bad news for Onondaga County's budget and the city of Syracuse budget, they're highly dependent on sales tax where we're not. And that's a big difference that city of Syracuse and Onondaga County have versus us. So would I have liked to have been available to get some sales tax, but those days are behind us. So,
Been 10 years now.
Yep.
It's not even an excuse.
I was the only vote against that. I remember it well. So I thought it was very unfair to the towns and villages.
It was, and it just got renewed recently, unfortunately.
Yes, unfortunately, yes.
It was
Okay,
unfair to the school districts too, because it cut the sales tax they received too, didn't it?
I'm not sure of the formula. If anybody was held harmless, my initial gut reaction is everybody that was receiving sales tax is going to feel the pain, and especially Onondaga County and the city of Syracuse. So I'm hearing two no's, so we'll close the public hearing component, and if the clerk would note the time, please. Okay. Any further discussion on the public hearing component of local law number 10?
No.
Okay, so that being said, we'll work on number 5. And this is the seeker part of that, establishing the town of Cicero local law number 10 for the year 2020 to override the tax levy tax limit is an unlisted action. Resolve the proposed local law number 10 for the year 2020, establishing to override the tax levy limit established in General Municipal Law 3-C is an unlisted action for the purpose of seeker compliance. The proposed local law will not have a negative impact on the environment and does not require the preparation of a draft environmental impact statement. Need a second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Carp. Discussion on number 5. Hearing none, clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Boyke,
No,
Counselor Carr,
Yes.
Counselor White,
Yes.
Counselor McCullough,
No,
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes. Item is adopted. Thank you. Number 6. This is the 2% tax override item. Approving local law number 10 for the year 2020. Resolved, be it enacted by the town board of the town of Cicero as follows. Section 1, legislative intent is the intent of this local law to override the limit on the amount of real property taxes that may be levied by the town of Cicero pursuant to General Municipal Law 3-C, and to allow the town of Cicero to adopt a budget for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2021, and ending December 31st, 2021, that requires a real property tax levy in excess of the tax levy limit as defined by General Municipal Law 3-C. Section 2, authority. This law is adopted pursuant to subsection 5 of General Municipal Law 3-C, which expressly authorizes the town board to override the tax levy limit by the adoption of a local law approved by a vote of at least 60% of the town board. Section 3, tax levy limit override. The town board of the town of Cicero, located in the county of Onondaga, is hereby authorized to adopt a budget for the fiscal year 2021 that requires a real property tax levy in excess of the amount otherwise prescribed in General Municipal Law 3-C. Section 4, severability. If any clause, sentence, paragraph, subdivision, or part of this local law or the application thereof to any person, firm, or corporation or circumstances shall be adjusted by any court of competent jurisdiction to be invalid or unconstitutional, such order or judgment shall not affect, impair, or invalidate the remainder thereof, but shall be confined in next line here, its operation to the clause, sentence, paragraph, subdivision, or part of this local law, or in its application to the person, individual, firm, or corporation, or circumstances directly involved in the controversy in which such judgment or order shall be rendered. Section 5, effective date, this local law shall take effect immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State.
Second.
Second, Ms. White. Discussion on number 6.
Just like to reiterate, the fact that this was going to pass tonight does not necessarily mean that we will exceed the tax cap. Simply gives us the ability to do so if it's necessary. As I said earlier, I think it's going to be. There's a big gap between expected revenues and projected expenses. We want to cut those expenses, but a lot of that gap is being made up by really just rating, and frankly, I think disastrously rating our savings. So the choice is to preserve savings so we have it for an emergency, or cut taxes. I'd like to do both. I don't know that that's going to be possible. So I'm going to vote yes, so we have the option. I commit to working with my colleagues on trying to avoid exceeding the tax cap. I don't think it's going to be possible, but I will make a good faith effort. To my colleague, Councilor Boyke, if you agree with me that you think we're going to have to exceed it, then I don't see what difference it makes whether we vote for it this week or next week. The thing that we do need to postpone is the adoption of the preliminary budget, which we're going to be voting on in a little bit, because that becomes our budget by default if we don't pass another budget. So that is a critical one to delay. I agree. This, if it's going to be done, it doesn't make a difference whether it's this week or next week. And that's why I'm not objecting to proceeding. And unfortunately, I feel compelled to vote yes.
I will,
Go ahead, Judy.
thank you. I would like to say, yes, I realize that we are obviously going to exceed the tax cap. I'm just uncomfortable with knowing what the actual bottom line is yet, because we have not completed working on the tentative budget. Therefore, even with the opportunity of the ones that are coming up after this agenda item, that I definitely, as I had sent the message off to the supervisor and the board this morning, asking for a postponement of 1 week for both of them until we get our arms around this whole thing. As far as the using our reserves to balance the budget, this has gone on for the last 4 years that in excess. And using our fund balance as a means, it's like using your savings to pay off your bills with at the end of the year. Unfortunately, with the amount of money that was borrowed in our bands and bonds, we got a reprieve because of COVID this year, but next year we are going to be hit really hard. And I'm just in fear of, we've got to keep this budget at bay and save our emergency money, because we're sure as heck going to need it next year. Thank you.
I'd like to concur with a number of comments from Mrs. Boyke and Mr. Karp. A very large percentage of our budget is fixed one way or another, either from contracts or things like national grid bills that frankly we have no control over. And I agree with Mrs. Boyke that last year's budget did have substantial items in there for fund balance use. And I think if you look at some of those numbers from last year to this year, the numbers are going to be very similar. So that's kind of where we're at this moment.
Just one more word on the fund balance. I mean, right now, the way it's planned, it would bring the DB, which is the highway fund balance, under $30,000. And I don't think there's anything that highway ever buys that costs $30,000 or less. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not enough really to buy. Maybe we could buy some tires, if someone runs over some nails. But I mean, really, that's not enough in the emergency fund for the highway to do anything. And that's obviously a dangerous position to be in.
I think a number of the board members have been very vocal, and I agree that paving has been a priority. And if we're going to maintain the paving, we either have to use fund balance or raise that rate. And if you remember last year, there was a pretty substantial increase in the DB last year. So you start looking, the numbers are large. My priority, I'm just telling you that I agree with many who think that the roads, highway projects are frankly, if not number one, maybe number one or number two priority for the towns. So that's where I'm coming from.
I agree.
Okay, further discussion on number 6. Clerk will call the roll.
Heidi,
No,
Counselor Hurst,
Aye.
White,
Yes.
Gallo,
The last 4 years, the town's spending has increased by at least 37%. The tax, spend, and rating of the reserve fund needs to stop. I plead with my fellow counselors, please, let's work together on this. We can do this. We need to make cuts. No one talks about cuts. So it's one thing I want to talk about. And by voting on this tonight, you're basically saying to the town, you're giving up. So I'm a no.
I'm sorry, that's completely, now's not an appropriate time to discuss
We're in the
that.
middle of the roll call,
You're
so
right,
we can
you're
come
right.
back to that in a minute.
Supervisor Meyer,
Yes, item is adopted. Thank you very much. Okay, the next few items, we have the comptroller who is not in the middle of the squares, but she's up at the top, in my top left. And, okay, Elka,
Okay,
you're up.
I'm up and I'm gonna talk for an hour. No, I'm not.
We were
The
gonna
first
listen to
item up is my own budget, which shows a 10% increase. But I'm willing to look at some out of the box ideas to fund the staffing in this office. Warm bodies are the biggest component of any of our budgets by department or in total. So I have been in contact with several board members as to explore different ways of manning this office. Other than that, there isn't a large difference in any of our contractual or other items. So that's pretty much and everyone has a copy of the budget for the comptroller within their budget documents.
Questions?
yes,
Are there-
I did. I have met with Elka on several occasions, and in discussing the personnel in the office and the changes, I believe in this next week we will be able to work out something so that we will have a reduction of some kind in her budget, and it should be reasonable. Thank you.
Further questions?
Yeah, before questions, Elka, it was great meeting with you and on Saturday. I appreciate it. I intend to bug you again this weekend if you so allow.
I'm open on Saturday, coming on Sunday.
So, but yeah, I concur with Counselor Boyke. We had great conversations about personnel in your office.
You don't have the pleasure of working with Elka every day like I do, and she's doing a fantastic job. So she's a great addition to the Cicero Town Hall and a great asset for the taxpayers.
Way off topic, Bill. I really had no idea how funny Elka was until Saturday.
See? She is. Come on by and, she'll be here all week, they say.
Show runs from 8 to 4.
So that's a good thing. Okay, Elko, would you like to talk about central services?
I would love to talk about central services. The bottom line of the central services, if you look at the bottom line, you're going, hey, wow, that's great. I dropped it to 149,000 from 312,000. But a lot of that is just moving building costs to the appropriate fund. We moved the $25,000 of the police building fund into the police fund, into the B fund, which is really where it belongs. Also, with a highway garage, we moved $165,250 last year into the highway budget. Also $500 for their break room because they don't exist here in the little town complex that we have. We also increased one of our costs for COVID virus costs. We have to have some plans in place that the state has determined that we need plans. So we put aside some money for those plans. So other than that, the contractual expenses and other expenses have maintained fairly steady.
There was a item from the governor's directive, another, as they commonly call it, unfunded mandate that we have to have together for this year. Unfortunately, he didn't define, what it would be. It could be any kind of a emergency in the virus, biological, whatever world. So it's going to be a challenge. So a number that
Wouldn't that be something more along the lines of policy driven? Or would it be policy driven more so than something?
I wish I had an answer for you, Mike, because it was very vague. And I'm hopeful that the health department, state health department, is going to come down with some more guidance, because right now all the municipalities are struggling with this because it's so undefined right now.
Well, as I had mentioned to Alka, that because it's actually something that is an unknown, that I don't know why we would have to budget it, why we wouldn't leave it in the appropriate fund balance, because the fund balance in itself is emergency money. Therefore, it wouldn't be a line item that we're budgeting when in fact we are actually just taking it out of our fund balance in the first place. That's something that I plan on looking into.
Okay, that's one way to do it, but our general contingency budget is pretty thin. So
I understand, but it's still,
Subject
it's emergency money, so it can
Right.
stay in the emergency money.
right.
Another new cost within the central services is we've got Wayne is coming aboard as a computer consultant, as opposed to stealing him from the police all the time. So the police are going to be able to keep their people, and we're going to be paying him out of the A fund for his computer consulting services.
Which we agreed upon.
I appreciate Wayne already. I was looking at the budget and I saw just interesting things the last couple of years when it comes to cost with computer labor. And Wayne is going to work with me on that to try to get those costs down. There's in information services, there's already a line for computer labor. And there's not all departments, but some departments had computer labor as well. And then, again, thanks to Elka and Wayne running those numbers from the last couple of years, it was astronomical spending in the amount of computer labor. So it's something to work with Wayne, and I appreciate getting that number down.
Yeah, hopefully we're going to be able to do things kind of like the highway does. The highway initially buys the fuel, and then they bill it out to the departments. In other words, if the zoning has a certain number of cars and they need fuel, then they're able to, with their keys, allocate those expenses. So hopefully that's going to be another improvement.
I can get back to the COVID expense.
Sure.
Is that for for all the departments or just the town hall? I mean, is that including highways and parks when they move?
The way it is right now, Nancy, it's set up for everybody.
Okay,
We don't know for sure what the further directives from the governor's office is going to be. They're after a plan I'm hoping to build on what we did successfully this year. We had a number of items like the emergency contacts that Kate put together. We had the operation run by the chief for the first responders. We can plug that plan into the this overall plan we have. We had some cleaning done here, and we can plug that in for a plan. So we're not going to reinvent the wheel. We're going to take what we learned here. We're going to take what we learned from other municipalities, and then come up with a plan based on the governor's directives.
Great part of that, the majority of that was policy driven.
It was policy driven, and thank you, Mike. It was the great work of all the town staff. They were very innovative to come up with new ideas, and they are dedicated to the mission of taking care of the residents, and they're also working on being creative. So they deserve a great amount of credit.
Can I ask what the building contractual expenses that went from 15.5 to 60,000?
Let's see.
It's A162040 under central services.
Well, contractual is a big catch-all that catches everything that's not otherwise defined.
Mhm.
I can get back to you with, something more precise. I don't have it right in my fingertips.
Sure.
Excuse me, that
Thank
is,
you, Alka.
can anybody hear me?
Yeah, Tracy
No.
had some input. If
That is the building contractual that I have itemized. We actually got that in an email that broke down. That is the component.
We can't hear her, Bill.
Okay, I'll repeat it. When Tracy's done, I'll repeat it.
It's the itemized list. I gave everyone the board members. There's a compound. Tracy said she sent out that email. I think she'll be agreeable to send it out again tomorrow. Custodial. Right. Is that things like custodial for one item? It's under the building.
Any maintenance, any repairs in this building, like we had the
It's like-
air conditioning unit breakdown a few months ago?
Is that like the roof? The new roof is in there?
No,
Remember, the roof is not in there and
Roof-
no renovations.
no renovations to this building, no roof.
When I look at that, at the one sheet, the summary sheet, under contractual expenses, that adds up to 27,500.
That would probably be a good expense to look at when we're cutting our budget.
Okay, Tracy will send that out again tomorrow. That may be helpful. It's itemized and is detailed, so she'll be happy to send that out for you.
Thank you.
What's the total amount on that, Alka, that line?
$60,000.
60,000. Okay, thank you.
Okay, the next item, the special items. Other than increasing the contingency from 50,000 to 100,000, we're holding steady on all other lines.
And we increase that line, why?
Because I don't know what's gonna happen next year.
Okay. But could we not, again, leave the money in the emergency fund and just do the 50 and then have 50 in reserve?
Well, if we put 100 and we only spend 50, then 50
It
will
goes
go back
back in.
into the reserve.
Okay,
So
either way, it's in the reserve.
either way,
This is the same as any other line in the A or B. The DB is different because any savings in the DB will go into the DB reserve, but any savings, large or small, it goes to the fund balance.
But it doesn't become a mod, it doesn't become a budget mod, does it?
That's up to the board. If they want to have it that way. So
All right,
we all set on number 9? If not, we'll have further questions. If you're all set, we'll go on to number 10.
Number 10 is an item where we don't have a lot of control over. For the A fund, just the employee benefits represents 19% of the total budget. For the B fund, employee benefits represents 29% of the total budget. A lot of that is due to the high contribution rate for the police retirement. In the DB fund, employee benefits represents 21% of their total budget. These are, huge amounts of the total budget where there's not a lot of wiggle room. We have no choice in what we contribute to the retirement system. Medical health insurance costs aren't projected to rise substantially, but they never have gone down. Our other workers' comp never seems to go down, and payroll taxes are a fixed percentage of the payroll. So they're broken down in the budget. When we do our workshop, we can go into a little more detail. But just employee benefits represents a large portion of each fund's total budget.
which makes sense. Those are all pretty standard things that we can't get away from, just like normal household. Makes
Yeah,
sense.
we were very fortunate on the workers' comp side for a few years, but we can't assume that's going to last forever. So,
No. We're good. I'm good with it.
okay, we good on number 10? Okay, okay.
Okay, the miscellaneous revenues, I kind of like that one. On the first page of the budget document, we sort of summarize the tentative budget. The revenues, other than fund balance and taxes for the A fund, represent about 54% of the total budget. For the Part B, it's about 14.5%. And for the highway fund, they only get 8% of their revenues that come from sources other than taxes. And it's also interesting to note, when you look at page 1, the amount of the revenues other than fund balance and tax almost equals what we're going to be rating for rating the fund balance. So there aren't a lot of sources of revenue for the town other than taxes. And what sources that we're going to be receiving from the state, we've already got indications that they're cutting our aid this year, and they're cutting it also next year. But we've still got to hold within the 1.56%, even though the state is taking out, large chunks of, our revenues that aren't taxes. Some of the largest, the categories for the A fund, we projected $90,000 with interest and penalties on real estate taxes, which I think should hold steady. It's sort of a consistent amount. The franchise tax, that's basically Verizon and Time Warner. They're not stopping to make phone calls. They're not stopping phone calls and watching television. So I don't see that line decreasing. We did cut down substantially from the prior year, our interest that we earn on our bank deposits. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. Interest rates are just awful now. We've only budgeted $50,000 for fines and forfeited bail. The court isn't really running, so there aren't the fines or the forfeited bails. We've reduced that by $175,000 from the prior year budgeted. This year to date, we've only received $59,500, and the courts weren't closed in January and February. So I don't think that $50,000 is out of line, great. They find a vaccine and we open up the courts and we have additional revenue, why that will go into fund balance. The state aid per capita, the state's already told us they're reducing us by 20% this year and next year. The mortgage tax of $550,000. For some reason, the economy is terrible, but boy, houses are still selling. I don't know. You tell us, Judy, why is that?
Well, evidently, people still want to move around.
So people still want to move around. So those items that I just expanded on total $1,110,000. So that's pretty much the substantial part of the general fund non-tax revenue. As far as the B fund, we budgeted $200,000 for zoning fees. I'm imagining that is going to stay consistent. Again, with people buying and moving around, there's going to be zoning revenue coming. We get $102,000 from donations for the canteen. I'm not sure where that's going to end up next year, for the next year. I know the canteen isn't being fully utilized because the kids aren't in school all days. So, I don't have a good crystal ball on what the canteen's going to end up doing this next year. Usually we get about $100,000 in the per capita aid, but we're reducing that by 20% or $20,000. So I'm anticipating 80,000. We get another $20,000 of state aid for public safety and youth, and another $40,000 of cops revenue, and that's youth, not police revenue. I had to scratch my head on that one. Why is it called cops if it's not for the police? So those items total $442,000, which is the substantial amount of the B fund revenues outside of taxes. The highway fund, the revenues that aren't taxes, we get from plowing some of the county roads. We get about $215,000 for that. I assume that will stay steady. Hopefully the county can still continue to pay us. I'm not sure if the county would say, well, thank you very much for plowing, but we can't afford to pay you. Don't ask me about that. And we reduced the amount of the chips that the state highway aid by 20%. This year, they withheld $56,000 of our CHIPS aid. So I'm assuming that, well, they've already told us they're going to do that next year. But don't worry, they're holding it aside for us. I don't know what that means, if we'll get it back later, but holding it aside doesn't mean we're getting it. So that's just a quick rundown of our sources of revenue other than taxes. Unfortunately, the town exists on taxes.
The governor was very clear that the items that Elka mentioned was going to be a minimum of 20% cut. The governor was prioritizing welfare and Medicaid type items as well as school aid, and then saying that the other municipalities were next in line after those items. So we did not want to overestimate revenues based on the governor's statements. As far as what Elka said about the county highway, I would expect that to continue. However, they are on a delayed budget. They're not even in budget deliberations yet. So we're not going to have a hard number on that in the meantime. So we definitely should not overestimate that for the time being. Other questions for Elka on number 11?
You can save them for the weekend.
Okay, thank you, Elka.
Okay.
Okay, that being said, the next item is number 12, Seeker 2021 preliminary town budget. Resolved, the proposed preliminary budget for 2021 is an unlisted action for the purpose of Seeker compliance. The proposed action involves no permit granting authorities outside the town, and the preliminary budget will not have a negative impact upon the environment and does not require the preparation of a draft environmental impact statement. Need a second. Okay, second call for a second. Okay, hearing no second, that item is not going to be acted upon. Again, I think it's a mistake not to continue with the preliminary budget, but if that's the will of the board, we'll move on to number 13. Adopting the preliminary 2021 town budget, whereas the town board was presented with and previewed the budget by the town supervisor and the town comptroller. Now therefore resolved, the town board adopts the Cicero preliminary budget for 2021. Is there a second? Okay, second call for a second. Hearing none, I have to tell you, I think that's a major mistake. One of the items that would be addressed if the budget was adopted is we would be able to have that budget available to the public. I know some of you have been contacted. I've read the emails here where the residents are asking to be able to review the preliminary budget. And so by not taking action, they will not have the opportunity to review the preliminary budget. Okay, number 14, set a public hearing for October 28th for the 2021 Town of Cicero budget. Whereas the town of Cicero has established a preliminary budget for 2021, now therefore be resolved, the board sets a public hearing for Wednesday, October 28th, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. at the Cicero Town Hall, 8236 Broken Road, to consider the 2021 preliminary budget, including special districts, for example, fire protection districts. Need a second.
Is it even possible to move forward with this next week if we haven't adopted the preliminary budget yet? I mean,
Like I said, I thought it was, a mistake to hold it. So
I don't
Alright, well.
understand how we could have a preliminary when we just went over the tentative actions that we haven't even discussed. We can't have a preliminary, which we really can't release to the public until we actually have a real preliminary budget. That's my opinion.
I guess I don't share Mrs. Boyke's opinion. When I look at the screen and I see the board members here, every single one of you have many years of municipal budgeting experience. And you've had it for a number of weeks. And Elka has been available. The department heads I know have put out messages to you offering to be available. So I guess I'm a little puzzled with so many of you who have so much experience and you've had it for a month. I guess I'm a little baffled.
Well, regardless of having it for a month, I could have it for 6 months without seeing all of the changes or the opportunity of changes put into place. I don't have a tentative budget. I don't have a preliminary budget that I can say because the changes I've asked for, we have not put into place yet. That is my opinion.
Okay, thank you.
not to mention, quite frankly, and I mean, I'm going to speak briefly on this because I don't want to beat a dead horse. All my years of experience have been on the town board, and in previous years, we've had budget workshops, like actual ones in person, which are very conducive, as I've said previously, to collaboration. We have the comptroller there, we have everybody there, we can bring the department heads in. Doing it this way is not as efficient, it's not as conducive to collaboration, and so yes, I have 4 or 5 years of experience now, but it isn't doing it this way, and this just isn't as efficient as previous ways, and it is what it is, I get it, but I don't think, it's not been as easy is not the word, but it hasn't been as smooth of a flow. It hasn't been conducive this year. So
I'm trying to go with direction in a number of board members that they want to have all this out in the public. So I'm trying to put every single item that I can, out to the public so all the residents can see it, hear the department heads when they give their presentations. They don't have to hear it secondhand. All of the residents can hear exactly what the questions were, what all the answers were, and then based on those questions and answers, they can contact any of the board members with their opinions and hopefully guidance.
I understand. I don't think that doing it this way is as efficient as in person. We could disagree on that, but.
Right.
It's only, I mean, Elka's great, but it's better if we could all be in a room together. And I just don't know why.
There's a lot of room in this room.
Happened.
All 5 of us could be in this room right now, this moment.
Oh, so you're saying we can do that? Let's set a public hearing, a work session. So we can be in the same room.
The 5 board members could be here right this evening.
This is completely changed. This is awesome news.
No, actually, Mrs. Boyke was sitting to my right when this started.
I know, but it was that was a regular meeting. A workshop, all we need to do is have all of us in one room with Elka. We can all discuss it, social distancing and wearing a mask if that's the case, and have an audio of it, and we can openly discuss it. I am appalled right now to understand that you're just saying we could all be in the room right now.
Well, hold on, but there's a problem with that, because if we're all in the room with laptops or microphones, it creates a horrible problem with the echo, which is part of the reason why Officer Freeman asked us not to do that.
Right.
If we were going to do a workshop, or so, if you had one camera with all of us that could pick up, with a single microphone for audio, whether it was a meeting or a workshop or whatever, that would work. But we can't all sit in the room with 4 or 5 laptops in front of us.
No.
That's a nightmare.
That's why I'm not there, because they took away from
plenty of room for the 28th. We can all sit here.
This is completely changed from months ago. Months ago, it was, we can't be there because I'm trying to follow the rules. I don't get what the change is now.
That's not true.
This is awesome. We can all be there. I take this as great news. We can, apparently the town board meetings are being opened back up to the public. Then Bill, it would be awesome.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what he said.
If we could set a work session.
I didn't say that. I'm saying the 5 board members could be here.
Then let's do it.
I welcome your attendance on the 28th.
Awesome.
I'll be there.
Okay, so
it's just complete reversal of what
figure out the logistics of how we're going to make this
over
work,
like a month
sure.
ago that you would not allow open meetings. This is awesome. I appreciate
no,
it.
Mike, you're not representing what I've said.
Not listening.
So that being said, the clerk, could you please, do we have a second for number 14?
Well, Bill, explain it. If I'm hearing it wrong, I apologize. I just want to hear what you're trying to explain. I'm sorry.
We're on number 14. Do we have a second for number 14? We do not. Okay, so we do not have a second for number 14, so we're not voting on number 14. Okay, moving on to number 15. Okay, the board declares the following items from the police department surplus. Resolved, the Cicero Town Board declares the following items surplus and of no use to the town and to be sent to the free OCRA, Onondaga County Resource Recovery Agency electronics drop-off at Great Northern Mall on October 24th for destruction. Okay, we have a long list, so please be patient with me. An LG monitor, BEJE 2242, T is in Tango, A is in Apple. An HP monitor, CNB 6271, S is in Sam 65. A Sony monitor, 030073-11. Hitachi monitor L50SSB SM41K. Sony monitor 030073-11. A compact monitor CNN 33710SC. A compact monitor CNN 33803HD. Compact monitor CNN 33504PQ. Compact monitor CNN 3360C18. A Dell monitor, that's a long one. CN, it looks like an O or a C, I apologize, whichever it is. CC 299-64180, 66A0YRS. A Dell computer YWZSV. Dell computer YW25V. A Dell computer FLNVP21. Dell computer 13459544353. Dell computer 372481795. 654, Dell Computer 147372, 48829, Dell Computer 24353718913, and assorted keyboards and mice. Need a second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Carp. Discussion on this item?
Looks like Wayne's been cleaning house.
Yep, I hope all the hard drives are destroyed. Wayne,
Oh, absolutely.
yes. So making sure there aren't any inappropriate items out there. So clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Boyd,
Yes.
Counselor Parrott,
Yes.
Counselor White,
Yes.
Counselor DeCarlo,
Aye.
Kaiser, Wyatt.
Yes, thank you. The item is adopted. Under discussion, some good news for the residents of the village of North Syracuse. I have in front of me a handout that was put out by the county executive. He had a presentation at the village community center there with a number of county folks and the mayor, of course. Here's some funding, 1% interest home loan for the village of North Syracuse. So we obviously have part of the village, and it's for emergency exterior and interior items. It is age-based. And so, again, I have these. If you know anybody in the village of North Syracuse that may be interested, please send them my way, and we can brief them and see if they're interested in this program. So it has a maximum of $20,000. Again, it is a loan over approximately 7 years. It's not a very complicated application. So if you know anybody, please send them over. And that's the only item I have.
I think we should clear up the board members being in the town hall discussion. I believe what you're saying, Mr. Supervisor, is that the board members can be in the town hall, but the meeting will still be conducted virtually and there will not be public in the room.
Correct. Correct. Okay, no other items being on the agenda. I'll move to adjourn. All in
Second.
favor? All in favor? Say
Aye.
aye. Aye.